Once upon a time, deep in an enchanted forest, every living thing depended on the soft glow of the full moon. Fireflies tucked their lights beneath petals, dewdrops hung like diamonds on spiderwebs, and sleepy owls hooted softly in its silvery beams. It was the most beautiful sight to behold. But one night, a fox was overcome with wanderlust. With eyes shining like golden coins, he skipped through the trees, leaping over moss-covered logs and chasing fireflies until the moon's light spilled across his face. And as he gazed upwards, a strange feeling filled him. Something about the way the moonlight touched the world set his heart aflame with longing. What if, he wondered aloud, I had the whole moon to myself? Most animals chuckled at the idea. "Silly fox," they said. "The moon belongs to everyone. It shines down on all of us. Why would you want it all to yourself?" But the fox couldn't shake the thought from his head. So under the cover of twilight, when the world was still waking up, he slipped away. He ran as fast as his paws could carry him, past sleeping badgers, grumpy trolls, and fields of wildflowers, until he reached the tallest mountain in the land. Panting heavily, he looked up. The moon seemed so close he could almost touch it. And with one last burst of energy, he leaped. Paws outstretched, he felt a sharp, cool pain as something hard as glass caught in his mouth. Then everything went black. He opened his eyes and blinked, confused. What was this hard, cold thing? Why did it feel like a shard of ice had lodged in his teeth? And why was it glowing? Carefully, he pried open his mouth and stared. Inside lay a piece of the moon, glittering like a captured star. But how did it get there? How did he catch the moon? Below, the world was a blur. As he watched in disbelief, the sky flickered, and half the moon dimmed, leaving an ugly black stain on the velvet night. Fear clutched at his heart. He wanted to spit the shard out, but it was too late. He'd held on too long. Suddenly, a twig snapped. Startled, the fox dropped the shard and ran. He turned back to see the world shrouded in darkness. Flowers wilted, rivers slowed, and the fireflies vanished. All around him, the forest creatures woke up in panic. Deer cried out, mice squeaked, and even the ancient oaks moaned. But the fox couldn't stop. He didn't know what had happened or how to fix it. All he knew was that he had to keep moving. And so he ran, the strange, beautiful glow from the shard lighting up his path. Everywhere he looked, the world was dimming. Lush green leaves turned brown and droopy. Bright blue skies grew dark and stormy. Happy laughter faded into silence. Even the stars overhead flickered and died. Soon, only the glowing shard remained. He ran through meadows thick with weeds, jumped over rocks hidden by vines, and splashed through streams that no longer sparkled. The water felt cold and lifeless in his paws. Where were all the happy sounds? Where were the chirping crickets or the babbling brooks? Where were the friends he'd known all his life? He paused, realizing no one was around. No one except him, and the shard glowed brightly in his mouth. Was this what it felt like to have the moon all to himself? At first, it had seemed like magic. But now, surrounded by darkness, the shine of the shard felt heavy in his mouth. It was no longer a wonder to behold, just a burden to carry. Suddenly, the fox stopped. In front of him lay a lake. He dipped his head to drink, but gasped when he saw his own reflection. His fur shone like spun gold, eyes bright as polished silver. But looking closer, he saw something terrible. There were no stars in the sky above. The moon had truly vanished. He continued on, hope fading with every step until he heard a sound. Softly at first, then louder, drums beating, flutes playing, voices singing. The music swelled until he had to stop, overwhelmed by the sound. Could it be? Were the others celebrating without him? He crept closer, hiding behind a tree, and peeked out. There, in a clearing bathed in the glow of the shard, a group of rabbits thumped their feet, swayed to the music, and tossed dandelion chains in the air. They were laughing and playing, but their eyes were downcast, their ears drooped, and their steps were slow. Then the fox noticed something even stranger. All around them, fireflies were trapped inside glass jars. Some glowed dimly, others shone brightly, but none flew free. Was this the source of the music? Were they trying to light up the darkness with their dying embers? With a pang of guilt, the fox realized what he had to do. Taking a deep breath, he pushed aside the ferns and stepped into the clearing. The rabbits froze, staring at him with wide, fearful eyes. "Please don't hurt us," they cried. "We have nothing left to give." But the fox shook his head sadly. "I won't hurt you," he whispered. "I just want to help." Hesitantly, the rabbits tilted their heads, their ears twitching with confusion, and the fox took his chance. He crept closer, then stopped in front of one of the glowing fireflies. Reaching out, he gently tapped the jar. "Let me show you something," he said softly. At first, the rabbit flinched away, but then it did something unexpected. It leaned forward and nuzzled the fox's paw. Slowly, the rabbit nodded, understanding dawning in its eyes. It hopped to the next rabbit, nudging it gently. Then it turned and raced toward the clearing, calling out to the others. One by one, the rabbits followed, their pace quickening with each step. Soon they were all gathered around the fox, staring at him expectantly. Taking a deep breath, he opened his mouth and placed the shard inside the hollow of a nearby tree. At first, nothing happened. Then, as if sensing its purpose, the shard lifted, floating upward, higher and higher, until it disappeared into the velvety sky. Above, the world was silent. Then, with a sudden burst of light, the moon repaired itself, bursting into full glow. The light spread across the land, rivers glittered, flowers bloomed, and fireflies danced. The animals cheered, their joy echoing through the trees. Owls hooted, deer stamped their feet, and the rabbits thumped their tails. The fox stood watching, both relieved and saddened. He'd returned the moon to its place in the sky, but in doing so, he'd lost the magic shard in his mouth. With a sigh, he turned to go. But as he stepped into the light, his fur began to shimmer. Looking closer, he saw that his fur and whiskers were glowing too. The moon had given him a piece of itself, a tiny ember to keep him safe in the darkest nights. And as he looked up at the shimmering moon, the fox knew he wasn't as alone as he'd thought. From deep in the enchanted forest to the highest mountain peaks, the moon's gentle glow touched every living thing, reminding them that even in the darkest times, a little light can make all the difference. So whenever you look up at the moon, remember the story of the curious fox who learned that some lights shine brightest when shared. Hey, I'm here. This is my channel, and thank you for joining me today.